Hi Leslie, this is Try, and I'm gonna make a video to help you with Build a Body or get you where you need to go, so that you can continue working on it. I'm using this website called Screencast-O-Matic, and you can use this to record your lessons. So if you're working with your students, you mentioned that you're going to have some trouble, like, with the second language, or, for the students, basically, you're going to make your own tutorial videos, and that could be helpful, and save you some time. I've done it before, so we're going to try this and see if you like it. All right, so here's your app for Build a Body, and from the beginning, we'll start off with the clock, and so you set your global variable to 30, which is great, and then it's decrementing by 1, and if the global time left is equal to 30, you're going to shut off the timer and change the background to win. So that looks good. I mean, you did a good job on that. One of the things that I noticed though is your start button. Do you have a start button? Let me see. Okay. When you initialize the program, I would have a start button because it helps in case you needed to start the timer when you're ready, when the kids are ready to play. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that a shot. Call this start button. Okay. And I'll go ahead and put start. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put under the layout, you notice how you have 3 stacked up on it. You had 2 before. This is a good place to put a horizontal arrangement. And then you can save space by putting them all in there. Now it looks like you had one before, but you had them individually. So I hope I don't mess it too much. I'm going to go ahead and delete these and just stick them together. Let me just double check here. Okay, so then on the horizontal arrangement, I can pick that one and change the width to fill parent. That'll stretch it out. You can also stretch out the other buttons. If you wanted to. And then, again, this is just formatting, I'm sure. That's not a big deal. Okay, so you have your timer here with the start button, and you have a reset button. So let's go ahead and go over to the top, or back to start, the start button. Now the start button, when click, will simply start the clock. So I'm going to go ahead and go to clock. And I'm going to set the clock when I press it to true. Alright, so I set it to true. And when I go back to my designer, that means when the clock starts, so I have to go back to clock. And I'm going to uncheck this one where it says timer enabled. I'm going to go ahead and click that one. I'm going to go back to my block. So what happens is when I press the start button, it'll start the clock. Okay. So the clock is fine here. So when you start the clock, you have your time, and then it'll stop the clock and it'll change the background image. So that's fine. One of the things I noticed also is that you have your reset button. You have here your X and Y. The X and Y can be used for, I'm going to put them in their spot right here for when you initialize the global variable. So here you have, let's start off with respiratory. X and Y. it looks like you have your X and Y here. This is the original one, so I'm going to change this one to 2, change this one to 3, and this is just so that it realigns itself with the teacher's guide, so you're not confused if you go back to the teacher's guide. Then I'm going to get the brain with the original X and Y. Oops. Wrong one. Brain here. Okay, so I'm going to change the brain to here. Now, there's nothing wrong with what you did, but you know, this is what they call like a level of abstraction, where you're able to utilize the global variables a little bit more efficiently. So I go ahead and put that one. The digestive system, X and Y. Okay, oops. And then now we got one more, the urinary. All right. Here we go. I don't know how long the Screencast-O-Matic videos are, so what I'll do is I'll stop every so often. Okay, so we have our variables here, and now we can use our global variables to help us with that. So here we have, instead of saying respiratory, we can set it here instead of doing that. Same thing with this one. Okay. And then same thing with this one. Okay. So that helps with that one. And so now if you want to also use the text, because you have a timer label here, one of the things you could do is you could set the timer label. Oh no, that's the timer. Yeah. So you want to set the timer text here on the start button. You could use a join. Okay, and then you're gonna join a blank one, or here where you're gonna put score, and then you could put your or sorry, timer, not score. Okay, to then use your variable global time left. So that means that you initialized your global time left to 30. So that means it'll, when you press the start button, it will find the global time and initialize it. Or you can set, it'll just show that time, but you also need to reset every time you press the start button. you're going to need to reset the global variable. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's just an extra way to make sure that your clock starts back at 30. Then, yeah, so then that'll start the clock over again. Just double check something here. These are my blocks that I used for mine. I don't want to change it to, confuse you. So I'm just going to go ahead and just double check something. Because mine might have been a little bit different. So I'm just trying to work within what you're doing here. Okay, let me pause the recording. Okay, so I think these variables are good here for the original. But we want to later on fix these variables later, which is your where the final placement is for your systems. So eventually we're going to need to fix this, but let's take a look at the reset button. We're also going to need to reset, same thing we did with the clock. We're going to reset the clock here to 30 as well. And then we're going to also set the clock to stop, to turn it off. Reset button is just to start it all over, so I'm going to make that one false. There you go. So you're setting the time back to 30, you're resetting the clock to stop, and then it'll be dependent on the start to make it true. You might not even need this one anymore if you do it correctly, but it doesn't hurt. So I'll just go ahead and leave it. Okay, and then see, I'll pause this one. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and add some space on the timer here. This set timer text, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one. And I'm going to put that in our clock. And that way it's counting down. And we'll do the same thing for the reset button as well. Okay, I ran it on the emulator and then I noticed something, which is good that I caught it. Here, with the global time left is equal to 30, it should be when equal to 0. That means that the time is left. It'll shut the clock off and it'll show you when, or great job. It'll be a picture. Alright. Now, you're not done yet because you still need to take a look at your placement of this one, the brain placement. Taking a look at the X and Y, so 129 and 13. So we need to change that one to, I'm sorry, what was it? 129 and oops, sorry if I'm going back and forth too much. 13. So this is 13. And this one's going to be 129. Let's just double check. Yeah. And then once you do it for the brain, you're going to go ahead and do it for all the other systems, okay? And then that will initialize your X and Y for all the dots here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and stop the the video.